Our circumstances don't define us. Our actions do. We all have moments of impact. What are you going to do with yours? Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Living the Sweet Life. I'm your host, TJ Sweet, and I'm really grateful that you're here this week. We're going to talk about something extremely powerful that probably all of us need to be reminded of a little bit more often, because we always have this deep sense of how we're doing versus how everybody else is doing, but that can get to be a tricky place to be. It can lead to false impressions of others and yourself. So before we dive in, I want to suggest that you go ahead and hit that subscribe button now so that you get notifications every Monday when these episodes come out. We all need reminders that we're learning and growing. And when you subscribe, you get notifications so that you can remind yourself that you are somebody who has more to learn, who's still growing, and who's still becoming. So this week, we're going to talk about comparison. And in comparison, we're going to talk a little bit about how we see ourselves versus how we see other people, how we see our journey, maybe our current state, compared to what other people show us and what other people tell us. And there's a really powerful quote that comparison is the thief of joy. And I want to dive into that just for a second, because this idea of comparing yourself to someone else all the time, or someone you should be, even if you are better at this and you compare yourself to who you should be instead of who you are, it's this thief of joy. And what that means ultimately, when I think about this, is your progress and who you already are may be where the joy can be found. But if you get caught up so much in comparing yourself, your journey, your progress, your current state to everybody else, you may lose sight of where you actually already are. And if we don't find joy in the moments that we already have, we're going to take the same mindset of going into the future with the same mindset of still other people being your measuring stick, still other people being less than you to find your joy. Because I can tell you, I've spent some time around extremely successful people, however you would determine that, impact, finances, number of businesses, you name it. We're all human. Joy is where we make it. Happiness is where we find it, where we decide it exists. It's not dependent on something that you achieve to then all of a sudden you become worthy of being joyful or happy. If you put off your joy and you put off your happiness, if you say, I'll be happy when, I'll be happy then, you are setting yourself up for it's a long road to learn that lesson, that that's not really where it is. But this week, I want to talk about comparison because it's something that I've struggled with a lot. There are a lot of keynote speakers. There are a lot of people doing a lot of great things on social media. And it's less about, I've learned a lot through this lesson of comparison being the thief of joy, but also understanding that I cannot grow if I'm only looking at how other people are growing. I can only grow when I learn from others and then apply to my own life to really recognize and celebrate my own growth. So the joy for me comes from growing, learning, making an impact. The joy for me no longer comes from keeping up with others or doing something that somebody else does or getting a result that somebody else has. And I've also heard multiple people say this, but it really resonated with me. But a lot of people want the outcome that others have, but they don't want to do the things required to achieve that outcome. And if that's you, then that's fine. Maybe the stress isn't so much on the outcome anymore. If you don't want to do the work in order to get the outcome, set yourself free from wanting the outcome until you're ready to do the work. But the truth is, you can't grow your own life if all you do is study somebody else's. This is why I talk about the journaling and the reflection and the meditation and this being in your own space and the stillness. You really get to study your own life more than what other people show you on social media. Even if you go to my social media, I don't post a lot, but what I post is hopefully my intent is to encourage and inspire. But I'm also aware that I could also be creating this false life that you all think I have of everything's great, everything's perfect. All it is sunrises and sunsets and hearts and great people doing great things. I'm not intentionally just showing you my highlights, but as I was preparing for this episode, I thought, maybe I am also part of this wave of people who only post the highlights. And if I'm fortunate enough to have you in my life, whether it's through social media or in person, I owe the full story, not just my highlights. And I hope you're encouraged by that, knowing that there's other aspects of my lives. I've had 5 knee surgeries over the last few years. I've struggled with a lot of different things. I've struggled mentally for a while. I've struggled physically for a while. But to be honest, I wasn't willing to confront it personally, so I didn't show it publicly. So this is me, right? Owning some of my things as well as we go through here. But, it's really easy in this world to where we have access to other people and other people's lives via social media. Like I just gave you a glimpse. It's maybe not the full truth, but you get access to people 24/7. You can pick up your phone and go on 5 different apps and look at everybody else's life. We've never been able to do that. Now, the thing about this comparison, like I said, we judge our own lives. There's still value in learning from other people and watching what other people are doing and being inspired. But when you look at them and you start judging your own self, the lens that you're seeing all of this through is actually broken. You're not able to see yourself truly because you're only seeing everybody else partially. So let's get into this message a little bit. Again, same format. I've heard lots of great feedback from all of you. My goal is to kind of keep it simple. The brain works really well in 3s. So I have 3 kind of messages, 3 ways to do this. So really pausing for a second and having you reflect on, who are you comparing yourself to? When do you feel less than? And when do you feel like even when you accomplish something, you still don't feel like it's enough? That's deep rooted in something of comparison. And maybe it's time to set down the comparison of what other people thought we could be. Maybe what we feel like we already should be. Maybe it's time to set that down and just focus on who you already are. Maybe how much you've overcome. And then be inspired by who you are and what you've been to become everything that you want to be. Not out of hate, but out of love, because you deserve that. Not out of hate because of the chapter you're in, but because of the love that you want to feel in the next chapter. Comparison creates this sense of, it's a slow process, but it creates this sense of kind of a false scoreboard. When you feel like you're behind because somebody's maybe younger than you and they're doing more than you. Maybe somebody that you used to be with or surround yourself with are more successful. It creates this scoreboard of you versus them. And that's why I say it's a false scoreboard, because it disconnects you from your purpose, your uniqueness, your meaning, your passions. It disconnects you from that. And then you start to feel like you're plugged into somebody else's when you're constantly judging yourself compared to other people. And like I've just talked about with social media and even the highlights, when people say, how are you doing? They rarely tell you all the things. They probably tell you more things that they're proud to tell you. But some advice is don't compare your behind the scenes, because you see all of you. You hear the thoughts that you have. You are with your own habits, whether they're good or bad all the time. That is the version that we're comparing ourselves to everybody else's highlight. So don't get stuck comparing your behind the scenes to everybody else's best moments, everybody else's peak state. because again, that creates this false sense of you being behind, or you not being good enough, or you not being capable, because that is just untrue. Social media has a lot of power, has a lot of positive power. It also has a natural, without intention and without moderation, it has the ability to kind of distort the way that you see other people's lives and the way that you see your own. So it can offer this false picture of somebody's life. Like I've already said, you probably as well. We post more wins and things we're proud of on social media. Filters and edits. So there are a lot of things that, so being fully transparent, this podcast is unedited for the most part. I give you everything. It's live. It's something to where I want to be authentic. I used to, if I messed up one word, like I don't really love the way that I started this podcast with where my headspace was, but I just powered through and kept going. But a lot of times there's edits. And, you know, I'm sure we've all taken 17 pictures of the same thing to try to get the best picture of the thing. That's not our life. That's how we want other people to see our life. But the other thing about social media that can be a little tricky is success can look instant when other people post it, especially when they're selling you something to help you become successful. It's not in an instant. It's not the quick fix. We are better than that. We are smarter than that. It's natural to want the quicker fix, but we're better than always seeking the fast answer that we can never sustain. We deserve to seek something that's meaningful, that helps us become something, but we have to separate those two, between seeing other people's success as instant and yours taking a long time. Again, that is the false scorecard. You're not behind in any way, shape, or form. You're just seeing other people's middle of their journey while you're in the beginning of yours. Or maybe you're in your middle of your journey, but you're watching and comparing yourself to other people who are so much further down the road, who've learned lessons that you'll never hear about, that have had struggles that you may never hear about, because people don't like to share that kind of stuff, myself included. I'm learning and growing and doing this more and being in front of more cameras. Being authentic and real is really what people want. They want to be able to connect to somebody they can relate to, not somebody that they only think highly of or have this false impression of. And so showing up in more meaningful ways in your lives is going to be something I'm going to commit to a lot for as long as I get the chance to. So the second thing I want to talk about is focusing on your path, not somebody else's. And somebody else's highlight reel may look like a path you want to be on, but everybody's journey is supposed to look a little different. My life hasn't gone the way I expected it to go, but I'm grateful for every way that it's gone. There are a lot of other people who've taken different paths. That you can learn ways to do something, but don't fall into the trap of thinking it's the only way. I can vouch for you that no matter what your background, no matter what you've been through, what you're capable of is not dependent on what other people have done and what other people have been through. You don't need other people's timeline. You don't need other people's approval. You just have to settle into your own timeline of the moment you have now and committing to living a life of how you want to be living for the rest of your life. You don't need to do this to make somebody else feel happy. You need to do this so that you feel aligned with who you are. And then authentically just staying rooted in the process, not the outcome. Like I said earlier, a lot of people will want the outcome you may have achieved or have achieved, but they don't want to do the things you had to do to achieve that outcome. And if you're constantly distracted by what other people are building or how fast they've built it, you're going to miss the beauty of what you're building, but also the confidence and reassurance and affirmation of who you are and what you're capable of comes from the process, not the outcome. But if you study more of the other people's path, then you'll probably lose sight of your own. And I am that thought has resonated with me. So I was studying a lot of other people's path, how they got there, what they did, how do I do that, how do I get that, all of that. In the beginning of all this chapter about 12 years ago, I was focusing more on what other people were doing to get what I wanted. But I was focusing so much on their path that I lost sight of my own. Now, I don't look back and regret. I needed to learn all the things. We learn all the lessons until we learn them, right? But it's also understanding that focusing more on your path will help you actually end up where you want to be instead of where that other person wanted to be. There's certain things we can have in common, but let's not say that we want the exact same thing as somebody else, because maybe there was a sacrifice that we just aren't willing to make. And that's okay, but you can still have a fantastic, meaningful life, outcome, relationship, business, career, finances, whatever it is, without having to feel like you have to live on somebody else's path. And then, like I've said this already, there's a lot of times if you're influenced by people around you in your community, if you don't want the outcome they have, because success doesn't look the same, and success isn't always pretty, and money doesn't solve problems. Jobs, cars, houses, things doesn't make a meaningful, happy life. It's the gratitude, the purpose, the connection that we find in the relationships that we have is where this is. But oftentimes we'd rather learn this ourselves instead of listen to somebody who's learning / learned it already. But it's really about understanding you have to own your process. Like once you really settle into your process and your systems and everything that you need to be doing, you'll start to then lose sight of what everybody else is doing and lose that sense of comparison. But you just have to really give yourself a moment to pause, because the sacrifices and the setbacks, the adversity, some of the pain that nobody talks about is part of the process. It's not to deter you from doing what you're doing. It's to help you grow so that you can go where you're going. And other people's outcome doesn't necessarily mean joy. So other people may achieve the things that you say that you want, but it may not be the thing that brings them joy or brings you joy. That's something you have to own. But your path is where you actually start growing and where your growth lives. But what you're building is uniquely yours. The life that you're building is uniquely yours. Spend more time paying attention to yourself, how you're thinking, how you're feeling, your habits, your choices, who you're surrounding yourself with, because really comparison just kind of muddies all that truth that you can find when you just focus on you. So here are 3 quick things that I do, that I've done, that I've had to learn over the last 12 years. 3 things that you can be doing to reduce the amount of comparison that you feel, and maybe also to find more joy in your current moment. So audit your social media feed. So if you're following people who inspire you and make you feel good about yourself, continue to follow them. If you're following people, regardless of who they are, and they make you feel less than, they make you feel like you're behind, do an audit on, is it something they're doing or is it something that you're feeling? Because if there's other people saying that you're not enough and you're not capable and you're wasting your time and better do this now or else, or are you still in a job you don't like some of this negative strategy that people use, I don't follow those people. And if anybody posts anything that isn't good for my brain or anything that I want to be surrounded by, I just unfollow people. I don't feel like I owe other people that space that I get to control. So the second thing is celebrating your progress, not just perfection. We've talked about that multiple times here, but write down one thing that you've accomplished this week and measure against your past, not somebody else's present. So what did you get done this week? How does that compare to what you did last week? Again, once we start to really hone in and start thinking about our own progress, we start to be more inspired because we want to write down more good things about our progress. The third one is similar. So it's celebrating unique wins. And, each night, whether you do this in a journal or you just do this in your phone or you share this message with a friend, but jot down one win from your day. Document the small wins, whether it's how you handled a conversation, whether it's that you've remembered everything you were going to do, whether your to-do list was done, whether you're proud of how you did something. document some of those small wins because it reminds you of your growth. Like I said, that's how I started this episode, is reminding you of your growth. But it's your journey. It's your journey. And you just have to own it. And owning it means all of it, not just the fun, glamorous side that you want to show other people. So as I wrap up, just a couple of simple things. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are building something real, and it doesn't need to look like anyone else's. You are not behind. You are not broken. You're building something real that doesn't have to look like anybody else's. So I hope today on this Mindset Monday, you look away from the highlight reels a little more today, and you pay attention a little bit more to your real life reel. Maybe today your reel is a highlight reel, but you start to pay attention. You look inward. You look at your life and recognize that you are enough, you are capable, you are strong, and you are significant. There are a lot of times that we achieve something and we think that other people will feel differently about us when we achieve it. And I can tell you personally, that is not true. We think people think about us more often than they do, as far as we feel like we're going to earn something whenever we achieve something. That's also not true. The people that I surround myself with, and the ones that I would encourage you to do as well, when you accomplish something in your life, the people that applaud you and recognize you and see you, those are your people. Not the people that also chime in with their victory, not the people who also chime in that say, yeah, but it took you so long, or I wondered if you were ever going to do that. Those are people who are threatened by your growth, who are now comparing themselves to you, and they're trying to be something that slows you down because they haven't taken action in their own life. I could go down an entire rabbit hole. I could go down a deep conversation about how people respond to your success and your achievements and your growth. It tells a lot more about them than it does about you. So don't surround yourself with people you feel like you have to compare yourself to earn approval, to earn love, to earn connection. You always deserve that. That's not an if or a when, that is a now. I hope this episode's resonated with you. I hope you see yourself more fully, recognize your own life and your own reel. There are highlight reels, but it's also just a real life that you're getting the chance to live. Don't spend it wishing it were somebody else's. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. And I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate everything that you do every week. The comments, the follows, the shares are inspiring. It allows us to continue to do this show the way that we do. And so I hope I leave you with this message that you always have the power and the capability to shift your mindset. So own your mindset, live with intention, and remember to look at the world, including yourself, through a grateful lens. Take care.